Welcome, everybody, to the Seasons Leadership Podcast, where we are committed to leaders everywhere at all levels who want to make progress on their leadership journey. We will bring you actionable advice to improve your leadership and life today.
Thank you for joining us. At Seasons Leadership, we share a vision to make excellent leadership the worldwide standard. Learn more at seasonsleadership.com.
Hello, everybody in the Seasons Leadership community. Welcome to the Seasons Leadership Podcast. Today, we are very excited to welcome Dr. Pam Johnson as our guest on the Seasons Leadership Podcast. And there's going to be lots of great conversation and good advice, leadership advice today. So let's get started. Pam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. First of all, I just wanted to thank you both for giving me this opportunity to be on your podcast. You guys have a wonderful reputation in the community as women in leadership, and this is a privilege for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
My path to veterinary medicine was very circuitous. My first career was in mass communications. You wouldn't know that by the lack of tech skills that I have. But I ended up going to veterinary medicine after trying to find other passions, and came back to my first true passion, which is veterinary medicine. And I moved from Florida to Alabama, Auburn, Alabama. And at that time you could establish residency. And so I put everything into one basket and was blessed to get into vet school. As you guys may or may not know, it's harder to get into vet school than med school. So it was again, a privilege to just be accepted. And once I got out of school, I was also privileged to stay at the first place that I joined in Noonan, Georgia. So it was almost a 30-year career, and I loved every minute of it.
Wow. There's lots of great content there already. I mean, getting into vet school, and I did not know it was harder than getting into med school. Susan, I don't know, did you know that?
I heard rumors. Yeah.
Yeah. So we learned something new today with that.
Probably by veterinarians, right?
Right. Well, I just want to jump in right at the beginning, because what I am really curious about is, you said you started in mass communications and then you ended up to be, going to be a veterinarian. But somehow you knew you had a passion that you were following. And that you were young at the time. How did you know what that was, and how did you have the tenacity to just do it?
It's funny. I think that I keep overusing the word blessed, but there's always been a passion for veterinary medicine since I could speak. And that's really all I ever wanted to do. And as a part of my journey, it's important to note that I didn't have the confidence the first go round to I didn't think I could get through the sciences, the physics and the chemistries. And so I bowed out. And then I soon realized, after my first degree, that I needed to go back to my passion, which is veterinary medicine. Now, the average length of school is 8 years. It took me 10, because I had to go back and get the sciences before I could even apply to vet school. So I appreciate you asking that question, because it was a long road to get where I was. But I was in a class of older students. So even at that time, there were other professionals. There were engineers, there were nurses in my class. And so it was interesting. On the average, we had an older class. So it was kind of an unusual class of veterinary students.
Oh, I love this story, because you did what I didn't do. When I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Wow.
And yeah, And I was just very excited about it and everything. And I was not, math was not my forte, let's just say. And I was in Catholic school, and the nun said, you're never going to be an astronaut. Don't even think about it. And I believed her. And so I just, went on. I didn't really have a passion at that point to do, like accounting, of course not, because so I was trying to figure what can I do without math. Anyway, this is a kind of a roundabout way to say, I so admire you for, okay, you took a little detour, but then you went back to what you were really passionate about. And I believe you can figure anything out if you have enough focus, and you're going to work at it. It took you 10 years, but you still did it.
It's funny you say that, Susan, because as I was preparing for this podcast and sort of reflecting as we tend to do, that started back when I was a child, I think, because I lost my mother when I was very young. My father is a Marine fighter pilot. I have 3 brothers, and so very quickly, whether purposeful or accidental, I sort of fell into that role of taking care of the family in many ways, and being a support to my father. But what's funny is that I'm actually coming to a point is that it was very traditional, male, female, sort of, the relationship. And my first lesson in turning adversity into opportunity, I was in a race, and I broke my left arm. And as a result, that's how I learned how to shoot a basketball. And my father, who originally said girls don't play basketball, quickly realized that, oh my gosh, my daughter's really good, and we could probably get her a scholarship into college. And so he became my coach. So it was sort of this interesting turn of events that sort of turned my life into direction. And of course, as you all know, sports play a key role in developing you as a team player and a leader in many ways. So it's funny you say that.
It sounds like your leadership experiences started at a fairly young age.
I would definitely have to say yes. It's again, God has a plan, and for me, it started as a child, and then that led into to high school, and from high school, I played college basketball, and again, you also learn about. It's interesting. You learn about what poor leaders are, and the attributes that you want versus don't want, as you're going through these different phases of your life, as I know you guys understand all too well.
Did you always think of yourself as a leader?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was talking to my husband about that earlier, and when you graduated from vet school, you think you're going to be a veterinarian, and then you find out, oh my gosh, I have to manage a group of people, and then I'm running a business, and then it's, oh my gosh, I'm leading people, and that's where that passion for leadership actually rose to the surface, and it became a major focus for me in developing my own leadership skills, because I knew intuitively what I didn't know, but I also felt like if I'm going to lead a team of people, I have to start educating myself. And so I started reaching out to different organizations. There was one called North American Business Association, and our version of accreditation, the American Animal Hospital Association, had a leadership program. I went to Notre Dame's executive leadership program, and I just became a student of leadership, and it was, again, it was this evolution over time. I think I may have mentioned to one or both of you that I lightheartedly but very honestly tell people that I learned a lot of leadership skills from natural horsemanship, because there's a difference between obedience and enthusiastic participation.
Mm.
And you can't force enthusiastic participation, right? And so, and the horses 100 yards away know what kind of mood you're in. And I like to say that when you walk into that building, you have to be prepared for how you're going to greet the people that you're going to work with that day. And who is it that they're going to see? And is it going to be the same person every day? And what values are you representing when you walk into that building? And so it is something that, even to this day, as Debbie knows, is something that I'm very passionate about.
Pam, to continue on the same thread, also, you had spoken previously about your philosophy on the different types of leaders that there are out there. Could you say more to our listeners about that philosophy?
Sure. I don't know if I made this up or if I read it somewhere, but I think there are different, what I call leaders or ladder climbers in any industry. And I use that analogy where there are people that climb the ladder and just leave everybody behind. There are people that climb the ladder and give other people a hand up or a lift up. And then there are people that want to kick people off that ladder. And one of the other ones that I used to talk to my team about, and my partners, I said, there were some rough places in my career and some difficult decisions. And one of them was with a partner. And I said, look, you can help me pull this cart, push this cart in the same direction. Heck, you can even get in the cart and I'll push it for you. Just don't push against me, and we'll be fine. We'll all be okay. So, it was the people that pushed against the cart that unfortunately sometimes those relationships sadly had to change or shift. So it's they're just lesson after lesson after lesson as I move through my career. And I think that one of my associates at one point, this was a great epiphany for me. She said, we were doing really well, and she said, why can't you just be happy with the success that you have? And it just, this sudden realization, came over me. And I said, I am happy. I said, but I hope I'm going to be better tomorrow than I am today. And I have to be a better leader for my team and prepare them for what's to come. I said, or else you become stagnant. And this person didn't understand. And that's when it really, really came to light, that sort of that growth mindset that you either have it or you don't. And I'm not sure that you can teach that. I'm curious as to, you guys have much more experience than I do in this area. So I'm curious about your thoughts.
Well, you'll appreciate this analogy. I think you can lead a horse to water.
Right. Right.
But you can't make them drink. People have to want to be objective and learn things and be willing to open their mind enough to think with a different perspective or see a different perspective and go, am I willing to consider that?
Yes.
If they're not, they're not.
Thanks for weaving that in, Debbie, because I was trying to avoid using that. I really was.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump in. Yeah, I want to jump in because I think you can learn it. And I don't know that we're all or nothing, we're open or closed, and it may depend on certain aspects of your life or certain phases.
Or
But
situations.
yes, exactly. But I do think knowledge about an open or closed mindset is really important, because if we feel ourselves closing for whatever it is, we're feeling defensive or whatever, if you know enough about it, you can be curious enough about yourself to take a pause and then choose, like, okay, maybe I might be a little bit closed-minded here. Is there anything different that I could do to make a better outcome, or whatever it is, but kind of crack open the door, because once you start being more open, it kind of gets momentum in itself,
I 100% agree. And I think that that's where your finding your passion comes
Yes.
into play. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, if you haven't found your passion, then go find it.
Yeah.
Go look for it. Because gosh, I never went to work a day where I wasn't thrilled to go in. And we're in a highly emotionally charged environment with what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I never regret it. I just couldn't wait to get to work every day. And I would love for everybody to be able to say that. I think that this is an opportunity for me to share with you guys that part of my passion now is the veterinary industry, because this industry or this profession is the highest suicide rate of any profession in the United States. And
Wow.
people aren't aware of that.
Mm.
And that is now one of my passions is, how do we have an effect on that?
Mm.
And how do we limit burnout? And, because I want people to feel the way I did and the way I do about what we do for a living. So this is, this is it's still one of the most honorable professions on the planet, in my humble opinion. And veterinarians, keep our water safe, our food safe, our borders safe from emerging diseases and things like that. And people don't even understand that. And those are some of the things that I would like to make sure that people at large understand their role and responsibility, and have a respect for that. So.
And how are you going about doing that, Pam? Tell us more about that.
There, about 3 years ago, maybe 4 now, it was right before I retired, and I was not feeling challenged anymore. We were talking about the growth mindset, and I felt like I had reached this point in my career where I had reached what in my mind felt like the pinnacle. I had a wonderful team of people that were highly empowered and doing a wonderful job. And I just wasn't feeling as though I were being challenged. And it goes back to that growth mindset that we were talking about. And when I said to my husband, I felt like I needed a bigger stage, it was sort of this blurting out that just kind of came out of my mouth. And I couldn't believe that I said that, because I'm generally very introverted. And that leads me to what I'm trying to do now, which is create this organization, this platform called Veterinary Mastermind, where we are focused on educating dedicated pet owners by giving them a success path and teaching them about all things veterinary medicine. And in turn, what that does is it helps the veterinarian, because, I always thought to myself, gosh, I wish my clients knew this before they ever came in the door, so that we could have that conversation, that collaborative conversation that's so critical to the care. And I think that in the long term, what I hope, it will create a movement and of empowered, educated pet owners, and less stress on the veterinarians, so that we can lengthen and strengthen that human animal bond, and also help veterinarians and the veterinary paraprofessionals keep their passion for what they do and allow them to do their job better. What I don't want is for this to go into a more transactional feeling. We were talking about culture and leadership, and in human medicine, I dare say it's gotten very transactional. And what I don't want to happen is for our industry to turn into that, particularly as we get more bought by some of the larger corporations, and then there's a shift in that relational part of veterinary medicine that's so critical to what we do on a day-to-day basis if you're in practice, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It sounds to me, what's coming up for me is just the thread of leadership throughout the many different things you've been involved in your life. So at a young age, having lost your mother, and with your brothers and your father filling a role, so leading in the household, although you may not have recognized it as such at the time, leading in basketball, leading yourself. Susan and I talk about leading self as one of the four main pieces of leadership, is knowing how to lead yourself. And so being able to tell yourself, yeah, I got this mass comms degree, but that's not really my passion. I want to go into veterinary medicine. And then having the wherewithal to follow through on that and do it. And then walking in the door and saying, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian, but I'm also leading a group of people. And now taking it to that next level and leading this movement that transcends any one practice and is for both the benefit of the pet owners, of which I am one, so I thank you, and the veterinarians.
I think you and I, Debbie, were talking about the circle of influence recently.
Yes.
And, that inner circle being, your circle of control, and then that middle circle, your circle of influence, and then the outer circle is your circle of concern and where we spend our time. And my analogy right now is, going from a hospital leader to hopefully an industry leader is expanding that circle of influence, and what I call that ripple. I want there to be a larger ripple. And so, that's my hope, is that we can have a larger impact by reaching more people through this platform. That's what I hope.
Oh, I think that was quotable probably, Susan. I think that's a great metaphor for taking leadership to the next level.
Right. And you know what I like about it, even so, you describe so much something that I believe in, and that is, so as you expand the circle of influence, the only way you can do that is by being more grounded and connected to yourself. So the more you're that way, the more confident you are, the more focused you are, the more, you are just able to, own your own space. And just by doing that, your circle of influence expands.
Amen. That's powerful.
No, that's what you're doing. You did.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah.
So, Pam, as we get close to closing out the podcast here, is there anything that you really want our listeners to know?
In terms of leadership, or in terms of
anything that you want listeners to know?
Well, I guess I should do a shameless plug for Veterinary Mastermind.
Yeah.
I'm learning social media, which is also kind of comical because I've literally run from it most of my life. Mm-hmm. So I'm on Veterinary Mastermind on pretty much all social media platforms. We have a private Facebook group that I just started that's called Vet Mastermind Pet Care Education. And this is just the beginning. So, and I think you have a link to, if people want to sign up for the newsletter, if it's a free newsletter, an educational newsletter. This is just the beginning, and I'm excited to see maybe a year from now, looking back, what I'm hoping that we're going to accomplish a lot and affect a lot of people in a positive way.
All that information will be in our show notes so people can link that way.
Exactly. And if people want to contact you, they can, through any social media platform that you're on, find you at Veterinary Mastermind, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They
Okay,
can.
great.
Can I ask a PS question?
I hope so.
Okay. I know this is it's kind of a tangent and kind of not. I want to circle back to the horses.
Absolutely.
And you made a comment, and I'm so curious about this, is, a horse can I guess, intuit, how you're feeling and that kind of thing. And I love what did you say, the enthusiastic participation versus just obedience. So can you give us an actionable tip on how to manage this within ourselves? Because I totally know, when your boss comes in, he or she doesn't have to say a word. You know exactly what boss you're dealing with that day, and people adjust. So how have you mastered this?
Boy, you just set me up. Thank you. The whole premise of EQ, we talk about emotional intelligence. I think way before that became, a hot phrase or a hot button, I would call it equine intelligence, because they don't shift for you. They don't shift for the mood that you're in. So when you're playing with horses, especially with natural horsemanship, to lead a horse and to lead them into an enthusiastic participant, it has to be a relationship of trust and collaboration. And so you, as the leader, you have to shift yourself and not expect them to shift themselves to meet you where you are. Mm-hmm. And it was a very, very powerful lesson, because you can tell when horses have that connection with you, because they have both eyes and both ears on you. If they don't, they have one eye and one ear on you, and the other one is facing the other way, no matter what you're doing. And so, for the horse people out there, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And people are not dissimilar. They'll be obedient, but it doesn't mean they're enthusiastic participant unless you show up as an enthusiastic participant and as a partner. It's all about the people. It always is.
I love that.
Found. I love that. It's so as the leader, we have to shift and not expect the people we are leading to shift to our needs.
110%.
It's a simple idea, but
yeah, easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
I love that also, the EQ, equine intelligence. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Oh, well, thank you, Pam, so much. This has been a wealth of information for our listeners, and I'm sure they're going to love listening to this, and they're probably going to be curious about what a year from now looks like as well. So we may have to have you back.
Well, it would be a privilege. It really would. Thank you both so much for allowing me to be on your podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody have a great day. Until next time. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. We hope that you were inspired by this conversation.
And we invite you to join our community on Patreon. See the link below. There you will find more resources to help you on your leadership journey.
Make sure to join us next time for more conversation about leadership excellence.